Hey, what is going on, guys? Pineapple Sway today talking about DC Worlds Collide. The new mobile game that is set to come out, I believe, sometime this week on, I think, July 7th. The new DC mobile game looks pretty interesting, and I'm here to talk about, is this game going to be any good at all? As most of you guys know, DC and Warner Brothers has been moving a lot more towards mobile games. We had DC Dark Legion come out a few months ago, which in my opinion DC Dark Legion is pretty bad. It was fun for the first, I would say, few weeks of launch, but it's just not really good, and it's kind of repetitive. And I think DC, what they're trying to do is trying to bring in a new fan base through mobile games, obviously, since we have Marvel, who's been really killing it in the mobile game department, and especially with games like Marvel's Contest of Champions, which I've been saying for years that DC needs to replicate the success of Contest of Champions and make their own Contest of Champions, because I think that would be perfect. And oddly enough, looking at this game, whether or not it's going to be good or not, I think this game has a good chance to be sort of DC's Marvel Contest of Champions. Um, as you can see right here, pre-registration, 100,000 coins, whatever this means, 300 diamonds, Harley Quinn, and then a launch exclusive frame, and then just looking at screenshots of it, it looks a lot better and more polished, in my opinion, than DC Dark Legion. Especially too, a lot of people have problems with DC Dark Legion because they've been using AI to make a lot of their content, like trailers and whatnot, and different stuff when they showcase new characters. And collect your favorite DC characters, recruit an unstoppable squad of superheroes and supervillains from the DC universe, form unlikely alliances to defeat the crime syndicate, play as Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, and over 70 other DC characters, which I assume this will be at launch. We'll have over 70 characters. That looks like Captain Cold right there. King Shark, Nightwing, Batgirl, looks like Green Lantern, Hal Jordan, although I'm pretty sure up here there's some more characters we can look at. So, it seems like they have a good set plan, for day one. There's Grodd, Bane, Harley, obviously, a ton of different DC characters. But, my question is, realistically, is this game going to be any good, at all? Um, Truth be told, I'm not really sure. Here's a look at, like, tier rewards and different stuff. It really has that Contest of Champions feel. Kind of reminds me a lot of Marvel's Strike Force, which Strike Force in its own is pretty fun. I thought DC Dark Legion was going to be like Strike Force, but then it wasn't. It was kind of just whatever. But, what do you guys think? Do you guys think DC's taking the right step into making more mobile games? Since they even said, last year that their games division was going to focus more on mobile games, which I would say, so far they haven't really hit on their mobile games with DC Dark Legion. At least that's my opinion. But this game looks like it could be a nice success for them, which is what they kind of desperately need in their games division. But I've been looking at different gameplay because this game's also been out too for early access, but it has its global launch in July. Literally this week, like what I mentioned, and if that number's true, 8 million people have pre-registered for this game, so this should be a big deal, for DC, for WB, and just for this game in general. But so my question is it going to be any good? Which, from what I've been reading and researching, obviously, it seems like it'll be a nice, fun game, for people to play. And, I plan to upload it on the channel and play it a little bit. I did upload DC Dark Legion, but in all honesty, that game was just super boring and repetitive. So hopefully, this is a little different, and a lot more fun and better. And, hopefully not utilizing, AI like what DC Dark Legion has been doing. But it's really tough right now, especially for a DC fan. If you're a fan of DC games, since you see Marvel basically kind of just taking over the superhero genre with Marvel Rivals and whatnot. Since you know DC hasn't really had a big game per se. Um, in recent memory that's been a success. Obviously they had Suicide Squad, which I have been covering still, and I've covered a lot in the last year. That wasn't a success for WB and DC. So hopefully, moving on to the mobile games realm in 2025, hopefully they've been able to get a lot more success so that we can, with these games being successful, can lead to much more better, more polished, and well developed games in the future, even if it is on the mobile side of things. Since, for myself, I like, I do like, the occasional mobile game, especially too, the dream is if we ever get a Contest of Champions style DC game, I think that would be perfect. I really don't know though, but yeah, I mean, are you guys excited for this game? Are you guys looking forward to DC Worlds Collide? It's been out for a little bit, but obviously we're just gonna have to wait and see. Once it officially launches, I'm looking forward to it. I think this game will be pretty good. It looks like a lot of fun, but it's just funny how DC has kind of just shifted their focus into the mobile games dimension and not necessarily, like games on console, and whatnot. It's just weird how it's kind of just shifted. But anyways, though, I hope you guys enjoy this video. This is Pineapple Sway. Peace out.